From teacher-centered to student-centered, what each era got right, what shifts in classrooms reveal about how students actually learn. A classroom that has been quietly changing. If you walk into classrooms from different decades, the differences are easy to notice. In older classrooms, the teacher often stood at the front, delivering information while students listened and took notes. Today, many classrooms look more active, with discussions, group work, and student-led activities. It is easy to assume one model is better than the other, but the reality is more balanced. Both approaches were built around real ideas of how learning works, and each one reflects what people believe students needed at the time. What teacher-centered classrooms focused on teacher-centered education was designed for clarity and structure. The teacher controlled the pace, content, and direction of learning, making sure that every student received the same information. This approach worked especially well when access to knowledge was limited and textbooks were the main resource. Students learned to listen carefully, follow instructions, and build foundational knowledge step by step. It created consistency across classrooms, which was important for large education systems that needed uniform outcomes. Why structure helped learning in earlier systems? There is a reason this model lasted for so long. Learning complex subjects often requires guidance, and teacher-centered classrooms provided that guidance clearly. When a teacher explains a concept directly, it reduces confusion and keeps students focused on what matters most. This is especially important in subjects like math or science, where missing one step can lead to misunderstanding later. The structured environment also helps students develop discipline and attention, which are still important skills today. Where teacher-centered learning fell short, at the same time, this model had limitations. Students were often passive, receiving information without actively engaging with it. This made it harder to develop critical thinking and independent problem-solving skills. Not every student learns at the same pace, and a fixed structure could leave some behind while others felt unchallenged. It also limited creativity, since students were usually expected to follow one correct method or answer. Over time, educators began to question whether learning should involve more participation. The shift towards student-centered learning, student-centered education emerged as a response to these concerns. Instead of focusing only on what the teacher delivers, it emphasizes how students interact with knowledge. Classrooms became more discussion-based, with projects, collaboration, and inquiry playing a larger role. Students were encouraged to ask questions, explore ideas, and take ownership of their learning. This shift reflects a deeper understanding that learning is not just about receiving information, but about actively making sense of it. Why active learning makes a difference? When students participate actively, they tend to remember and understand more. Explaining ideas, debating concepts, and applying knowledge in real situations strengthens learning in ways passive listening cannot. Student-centered classrooms also allow for flexibility, giving students space to learn at their own pace. This approach supports different learning styles and encourages curiosity. It helps students develop skills like communication, collaboration, and problem-solving that extend beyond school. Challenges within student-centered approaches. Even though student-centered learning sounds ideal, it is not without problems. Without enough structure, students can become confused or overwhelmed. Not all students are ready to manage their own learning, especially at younger ages. Some may participate less, relying on others during group work. Teachers also need strong training to guide discussions effectively without losing focus. In some cases, important foundational knowledge can be missed if the balance is not carefully maintained. Finding the balance between two systems, the most effective classrooms today often combine both approaches. Teachers still provide clear explanations when needed, especially for complex topics. At the same time, they create opportunities for students to apply and explore what they learn. This balance allows students to build strong foundations while also developing independence. It recognizes that learning is both guided and self-driven, not one or the other. What this means for students today. For students, this shift changes what it means to succeed in school. It is no longer enough to memorize and repeat information. Students are expected to think, question, and connect ideas across subjects. At the same time, they still need discipline and focus to build knowledge step by step. Understanding both systems helps students adapt to different learning environments. It also helps them take more responsibility for their own growth. Final thoughts. Looking back, it becomes clear that neither teacher-centered nor student-centered education is perfect on its own. Each developed to solve specific challenges in its time. Teacher-centered classrooms gave structure and clarity, while student-centered approaches brought engagement and deeper thinking. The future of education depends on how well these ideas are combined. When both structure and independence are valued, learning becomes more complete and meaningful.